Granjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmalatam Yaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Gulshan Prabhu, would you like to read that, English?
I was born in the darkest ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torch of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisance unto him.
Okay, so let's continue. So last week we read from the 5th chapter entitled Karma Yoga, Action and Krishna Consciousness, and we read text 25. So we'll recap on that and then we'll go to text 26. So just to refresh ourselves, last week's 125 said, those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve liberation in the Supreme. So some criteria, we've been hearing in the last few weeks about this point of liberation. It's been a reoccurring topic in these verses. So liberation means, it's talking about here freeing the soul from the material world and going back to the spiritual world. Now, why do we want to do that? Why do we want to free the soul from the material world?
So
Liberation means to free.
We get out of the birth and death cycle?
Yeah, because the material world has problems, miseries attached to it, like birth and death and old age and disease. So, and why do we want to get free from that? Because it's unnatural, actually, because our true self, the soul, doesn't have any of these problems. The soul's eternal. There's no birth for the soul, no death for the soul. The soul never gets old age or disease like that. It's free from these. So it's a very unnatural situation to be stuck in this material body, which goes through all of these miseries and more. So originally the soul is not covered by a material body, only because we've left the spiritual world and come to the material world. Now we're covered by this material body. And the problem is, now that we've come here, we're identifying ourselves with the material body, isn't it?
Yeah.
Who's thinking? Isn't it? The Indians thinking I'm Indian, our Aussies thinking I'm Aussie, the Kiwis thinking I'm Kiwi, the man's thinking he's a man, the woman's thinking he's a woman. But we're none of these. These are just false designations or labels. We're actually all eternal souls. We're like a driver that's foolishly thinking I'm, what is it? Gulshan has what? A Toyota Corolla?
Yeah.
And Bob has don't say it, a Fiat. Was it a Fiat or something?
A Kia.
Kia. Oh, okay, Kia. Kia. So we're thinking we're something other than what we are. We've forgotten that we're the driver. We're thinking we're the vehicle. So, and of course, whatever accidents the vehicle has, we're thinking that's me. That's written off. That we're written off. But we're never written off. No, in this car, of course, materially speaking, a driver may die with the car. But in this case, even though the car or the body may be destroyed, then the soul or the driver is never destroyed. And Krishna establishes that in the 2nd chapter. So we don't actually belong in this material world. That's what we're trying to understand by hearing from Krishna, that this is not our real home. Our real home is in the spiritual world. That a great example I've always related to is the fish out of water example. You know, if you take the fish out of its natural environment in the water, it doesn't matter what facilities you give it. If you give it a nice bed and a nice TV set, a nice fridge, everything, nice food, the fish is still not going to be happy. It's going to be really suffering because it's out of its natural environment. As soon as you put it back in the water, it's as happy as Larry. And it's like us, you know, as soon as we leave the spiritual world, doesn't matter what facilities we have, doesn't matter whether you're in heaven or you've got, a beautiful woman around you and lots of money and a big house or whatever, but we're never truly happy. I mean, I was brought up myself with, I'm just trying to think from my own experience. I was brought up with a lot of material facilities, but I was always feeling inwardly so frustrated and so empty. I don't know about you guys, but I was feeling there's something missing in my life. It doesn't matter what I do to try to be happy. I'm not happy. I'm not, even though I've got money and a good education and a nice parents, but something was missing. Did you ever have that funny feeling, either of you?
Yep.
Yeah, I was looking at what's my true nature, and then I realized that, and I was doing different kind of businesses and work as well, but a true nature was like a seva, and then once you realize the true nature, you've been kind of satisfied. It's like I
Yes.
don't need any more. It's
Yes.
as long as I can do the seva,
Yes.
and that's pretty much I'm here for. Whether I
Yes.
get in return $10 or $5 or nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what comes with the soul also. Like we're saying, our real nature is that we belong in the spiritual world. And then what Gulshan is saying, well, what do we do? What does the soul do? I mean, we know we're eternal. We know we don't belong in material. We belong in the spiritual world. But say we go back to the spiritual world, what do we do? Or we've come from there. What did we do before we came here? That we did seva. So that means service, or service with love. That's why we say devotional service, not service like we think of in the material worlds, something that you have to do to pay the bills. You have to do some service, you have to do some work. Not that kind of service. You have to
And
pay
then you're
taxes.
waiting for a paycheck.
You're
That's
waiting for
not
a
a
paycheck.
service.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're getting something at the end of, you don't actually enjoy doing the service, but you enjoy the money that you get
Yeah,
as
you're
a
waiting for
result.
the payday,
Yeah,
and you're
and
gonna
that's
get
what we
a
call
buy a
fruitive
good
activity.
car.
Yeah. So service, not like that kind of service where you don't like doing it and you just want you're doing it to get the money, but service that really gives satisfaction to the heart, pleasure to the soul. And that's our loving relationship with God. When we serve God, we feel so much pleasure, so much happiness, and we don't want anything else. We don't even care if there's no money in that equation or whatever like that. We're just enjoying so much the service itself. And then that's a phenomena, like in the Hare Krishna movement. Like when Prabhupada started it, no one got any payment. No one got any payment. All they worked so hard day and night doing different services, and they got a place to sleep in the temple, and they got as much prasadam as they wanted to eat, much food as they wanted to eat, and some clothes and some tilak and basic things. But people never didn't get wages or salaries or anything like that. And they were happy to do that. I mean, materially speaking, who would do that? Who would work so hard and not get paid? No one would do that. But they were enjoying so much that service to Krishna that they didn't even think about getting what else am I going to get out of it. They were so satisfied doing that service. And that's the way I started out in Krishna consciousness too. We just did service all day, every day, whatever was required. And it was just so enjoyable. And I really felt like liberated. I felt so free. It was such a blissful, ecstatic life, just as a brahmachari and doing service and not a worry in the world, and so happy every day, just talking about Krishna and distributing books and chanting Hare Krishna, and it was just wonderful. Growing vegetables for Krishna and cooking for Krishna, cleaning for Krishna, everything for Krishna, and it's just so joyful. And that's the essence of what Lord Chaitanya has brought us. It's called Ananda. What is it? Ananda Kevala Kanda. That this path or Kanda is Kevala, means only, Ananda, joyful, blissful. This process of Krishna consciousness, which has been given to us by Lord Chaitanya, which is mainly based on chanting and dancing and feasting, is so joyful, so blissful. And we all definitely felt so liberated, and we still have that feeling as long as that we're engaged in service. It doesn't matter whether we're a single man or a married man, or what kind of service we do, whether it's distributing books or distributing prasadam or growing veggies or whatever it may be, that as long as we're doing it for Krishna, there's so much happiness in that, and that feeling of liberation comes. And in due course of time, of course, the body will die and we'll go back to Godhead. But here, so in this verse we read last week, criteria given there: free from dualities that have come from doubts. The mind is engaged within. Normally the mind is all outside, right? Absorbed in whatever, through what we're seeing through the eyes and hearing through the ears and smelling through the nose and so forth. It's all external. But in Krishna consciousness, a liberated person, the mind is more internally engaged. And what does that mean? Thinking about Krishna. That's what it means. The mind is engaged within. What does that mean practically? That you're thinking about Krishna. You're thinking how to please Krishna. The mind is always thinking, how can I distribute more of Krishna's prasadam to the people? How can I help the devotees to be more healthy? Then they can do more service for Krishna. That's what you should be thinking, Bob. How can we help the devotees to be more healthy? Myself also, so I can do more service for Krishna if I'm healthy, and help the other devotees to be more healthy so they can serve Krishna a better way and for a longer time. Prabhupada said to his disciples, I want you all to live a long life. I want you to live a long life. You can do lots of service for Krishna, spread Krishna consciousness. And of course, you can't live a long life unless you're healthy. So that's a good service, and we should be thinking about that. Should use the mind in that way. Using the mind in relationship with Krishna. Whereas normally the mind is engaged externally and no relationship with Krishna. Thinking about how can I get more food for me and more money for me and a bigger house for me and a beautiful girl for me and so forth. It's all about me. But a devotee's mind is not thinking about me, I all the time. Is thinking about Krishna. How can the priest is thinking, how can I dress Krishna more beautifully? Like today's Ram Navami, the anniversary of the appearance day of Lord Ramachandra, Krishna's incarnation as Lord Ram. And the priest. No, today in New Zealand it's today.
Oh, okay. We had yesterday. Okay.
I heard yesterday, yeah. So the priest is thinking, how can I dress Lord Ram in a more nice way, and how can I cook nice things for Lord Ram? Like most of my day today, what did I do? I was just cooking special items for Lord Ram.
Lord Ram,
from the garden. I spent a long time, about 4 or 5 hours in the kitchen, trying to cook things, and mostly I cooked things I've never cooked before. So it was really difficult because I was following recipes and trying to do things.
You're a chef, so it's not hard for you.
But this was different items, special items. Okay. And I was using vegetables I've never used before.
And there was a fasting till midday or till sunset?
Actually, there's a bit of controversy there.
Yeah, I did it till midday because
I know. Some calendars say till midday. Some calendars say till sunset. So you figure it out which one you want to follow. I think I'd rather follow the midday one.
Yeah, midday one, because Krishna born in a midnight, so fasting midnight, and then Rama born in midday, and fasting till midday.
So there's a bit of controversy, but we follow the midday one.
Midday one, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so like that. So but it's really nice just thinking about how you can please the Lord, serve the Lord. So that's what it means. The mind is engaged within, and busy working for the welfare of all living beings. And we discussed the best welfare is to help people go back to Godhead. Because if you just help them materially, like if the poor person, I give him $100, how long is that going to help him for?
Maybe a few days, that's it.
Maybe a few days, or maybe it's going to
Lucky.
make him worse. If he goes to McDonald's, it's going to make his future worse, eating more meat. Or if he goes and buys some, what do they call it, ice or cocaine or heroin or whatever like that, it's going to make his life worse. So material welfare is temporary and it just leads to further suffering. But the real welfare is to help someone become Krishna conscious, to help them remember that you're not the body, you're a soul, you're part and parcel of Krishna and you belong in the spiritual world. That's the ultimate welfare. So, and this is one of the qualifications to go back to Godhead. We should always be trying to help other people and help them in their spiritual life. First of all, of course, we've got to help ourselves, because how are you going to help anyone else if you don't help yourself? It means how are you going to help someone else to be Krishna conscious if you're not Krishna conscious? If you say, Bible Gulshan, if you say to your friends, come on, you should read the Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita is going to help you so much. This is a really great book. And they're going to ask you, well, what's in the book? And you say, oh, I don't know. I haven't read the book. Then that's not going to be very effective.
It's like, if you use that something like, it will be like effect on others. Like even like if you read the book, if you didn't read the book, it's not going to affect the others, because if you did it, if you're honest, and the other people will follow. Honesty just goes like that. If you read the book, they will follow blindly, because they can see honesty in your eyes. That's it.
Yeah.
You maybe not remember even one shloka, but you read the Bhagavad Gita. You say it's a good book. If you never read it, no matter how much you can convince us, they're not going to get convinced.
Yeah. As they say, this one, Bob, got to walk the talk.
Walk the talk. That's it.
Walk the talk. You have to walk the talk. You have to practice what you preach, as they say also. Yeah. So that's very important. So there's some criteria. And as we finished off last week saying, don't get depressed or become unmotivated because it seems like, wow, these criteria are very high. I don't know if I can do this, get free from dualities and always be engaged within, everything like that. Don't worry if you're not feeling like you've got all those qualities yet developed in yourself. But the main thing is we should know what the goal is and we head towards it. We're so lucky that at least we have a goal. We might be far away. We might be a million miles away from the goal or 1,000 miles away from the goal. But at least we know where we're going. We know what the destination is, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't have a goal, what's going to happen in your life?
It's going to go in circles.
Yeah, it's called going nowhere fast. Or going round in circles. It's so important to have a goal. I mean, even they did some scientific research. They had a bunch of students, right? And some students had no written goals. And some students had, no, hang on. Some of them had no goals at all, no goals. Some of them had
some goals.
Had a goal, but it wasn't written down.
Yeah.
And others had goals and they wrote it down. And then they went and met up with all those people, those students, like 10 years later or whatever number of years later, and just to see what happened to them in their life. And those people, students that 10 years later, they'd had no goals. Do you know what sort of position they were in? How far ahead they had got?
They probably hadn't advanced much at all.
They hadn't advanced much at all. And those that had goals but hadn't written them down, how do you think they did in relationship to those that have goals?
Further than that?
They went quite a bit further. And those that had written goals,
they achieved it.
They were the main achievers. They were like the CEOs and the amazing artists and the amazing, musicians and the, whatever it was, at the field, they were really good. So they had clear idea of where they were going in their life. It's very important. You have to know where you're going. Otherwise, you're not going to get anywhere. So definitely we might say, well, I'm not there yet, but that's okay. Don't worry that, I'm not free from dualities right now, and I'm not, working for the welfare of everyone right now and like that, but at least that's where you want to be. You want to get there.
It's pretty much like a one knot in the thread. Like, you have to have a both end to know in order to undo the knot. Otherwise, you can't undo the knot.
Yes. Yeah.
No matter what, even if you do know both ends, that's the only way you undo the knot.
Yes.
That's the thing. Come from Krishna, going to Krishna. If we know, we can undo that.
Yeah, very good.
Otherwise, no chance. Little frustration, get the knots getting tighter.
Yes. So we should be very enthusiastic to achieve this goal. This is actually said to be the goal of human life, as Prabhupada said in his magazine that he started in 1944. Do you know the Back to Godhead magazine? Prabhupada started in the Second World War, 1944.
Yeah.
And it's back home, back to Godhead, back to Godhead. So that's our goal, back to Godhead, which is liberation. Get free from material life, of miserable life, and reunited with Krishna, engaged in his loving service. So that's our goal. And some of the criteria to achieving that are given here in the 5th chapter. So we should understand what they are and try to work towards that. Try to work on getting free from dualities, being more equipoised, not getting so many caught up in the ups and downs, like that, and trying to be more equipoised, more neutral like that, trying to do something more for other people, trying to get your mind to think more about pleasing Krishna rather than pleasing yourself, and work on these things, because these are helping us to achieve our goals in life. Okay, so let's read the next one. So we'll read the Sanskrit text 26. 5th chapter, text 26. Karma krodha vimuktanam.
Kama krodha vimuktanam.
Yatinam yata chetasam.
Yatinam yata chetasam.
Abhito brahma nirvanam.
Abhito brahma nirvanam.
Vatate viditatmanam.
Vartate vidyatatmanam.
Let's do it once more. Karma krodha vimuktanam.
Kama krodha vimuktanam.
Yatinam yata chetasam.
Yatinam yata chetasam.
Abhito brahma nirvanam.
Abhito brahma nirvanam.
Vatate viditatmanam.
Vartate viditatmanam.
Okay, Bob, would you like to read the English, please?
Those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured of liberation in the Supreme in the very near future.
Wonderful. So this is more clarification about where we want to get to, what qualities we want to develop. So the first one mentioned free from anger. And how many of you have ever got angry before? Put up your hand.
You have to ask him how many times. Not say how many of them. How many
times a day?
Yeah. Vishwambar has got no chance.
Yeah. So, but I want to talk about this because this is very interesting. So, free from anger. I know past times where Prabhupada got angry, and does that mean he's disqualified? No, because see, there's different kinds of anger. There's a material anger and there's a spiritual anger. You want to be liberated, you want to get free from the material anger, and you can still have the spiritual anger. See, everything is there. That's there in our material life is there in spiritual life, but in the spiritual life it's pure. The emotions are pure. But in material life, the emotions are perverted. Do you understand that?
Yep.
So everything all the emotions that we have in our material life are there in spiritual life. But the difference is, in material life, these emotions are perverted. It means like upside down. And in spiritual life, they're perfect, they're pure. So let's explain that. And it's a good day to explain this one, because this is the most common example of a devotee's anger. And it's Hanuman. And because today's Ram Navami, and Hanuman is regarded as the greatest servant of Ram, Lord Ram, and he's famous for his anger. But see, material anger is normally happening when we don't get what we want, when our material desires are not fulfilled and we get frustrated and then we become angry. So Hanuman's anger was not like that. Hanuman's anger was that he loves Ram more than anything else in the universe. And Lord Ram's most beloved wife, Sita, his eternal consort, Lakshmi, or Sita, was kidnapped by a rascal called Ravana. And Hanuman was so angry because Ravana had disturbed Ram's sense gratification, Ram's happiness, not his own happiness. You see the difference?
Yeah.
If you love someone, you can't tolerate any offense to them, any blasphemy or offense or any pain for them. You can't. If you can, if someone that you love gets hurt and you don't become angry, then you don't have much love. You don't
There's
have
something
much
wrong.
love. There's something wrong.
That happened in the material world as well. Like, if somebody insults your child or trying to hurt your child, you get angry straight away, no matter what.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's it. So the same thing.
To the material world, like, your daughter, my daughter, or your wife or my wife, or it's like a material world, but we still get angry.
Yeah, but the thing is that why are you getting angry that something happened to your daughter, but you're not getting angry that something happened to someone else's daughter?
It's
So
like
there's still a kind of selfishness there.
Attachment is there.
Because it's my daughter or it's my wife. You're not getting angry if someone else's wife gets hurt.
No.
But you're getting angry why? So why you're showing anger when one person and not another person? Because of personal attachment.
Yeah.
So it's still a kind of selfishness there. It's not pure love. It's not pure love. But that's an example that can be used. So Hanuman, he got angry only not because himself was getting hurt or anything like that, or his own desires were frustrated or anything, but he was getting angry only because he loved the Lord so much, and the Lord was being insulted, and his wife.
Lord has been unhappy. Yeah.
Yeah. So Hanuman getting angry, that was not an obstacle to him being liberated. It's not that he'll be disqualified from being liberated because he got angry in that case. Actually, for him, getting angry in that case is a qualification. It qualifies him that he loves the Lord so much that he can't tolerate any offense to the Lord. So that kind of anger is okay. And Prabhupada exhibited that kind of anger. One time there was a very evil person regarded as a demon, in Bombay called Mr. Nair. And
Oh yeah.
he tried to destroy a Hare Krishna temple.
Yes.
He used to be the chief of police, so he used
He died with
his
a heart attack, is it? Is he how he died? The road
later on he
accident.
had a heart attack.
Heart attack, yes. I remember.
And even if you look at that, what happened then, it's very extraordinary because he wasn't very old and he was very fit. And no one would have expected he died, but he suddenly had a heart attack. And Prabhupada was actually in New Zealand at the time. And when the message came through from India that Mr. Nair was dead, Prabhupada was happy. Now, normally you don't find that people are happy that someone died.
Yeah.
But and Prabhupada said Jai, which means all glories, that Nrsingadev has killed him. So he saw that God had killed him. And he was happy because this person was a big offender to Krishna, a big offender. He actually, earlier on, he tried to destroy the deities of Radha and Krishna, called Radha Rasa Bihari. He tried to destroy the temple while the deities were in the temple. It means they were cutting the pillars that were holding up the roof to the temple. So they tried to destroy the deities, and they threw all the devotees, including my spiritual master, in a police van, in a police truck. They grabbed them and threw them in a police truck and put them in jail.
I was wondering that what is gonna happen to him. Like he'd be like Swarga and Naraka. He probably would be. Oh my God.
Very bad future, yeah.
I can't even think that. What happened to Sri Krishna gonna do to him?
Yeah. So in that kind of scenario, Prabhupada would be very angry, when these kind of things happened. If a devotee hurt another devotee, Prabhupada would get angry at the devotee. And he didn't physically hit anyone, but he exhibited so much anger in his face and his voice and everything like that. And but it was serving a purpose to rectify a bad mentality, some offensive behavior, to try to purify the disciple. And a very fascinating thing with Prabhupada's anger, he would be incredibly angry at one moment. And then after he'd made his point and the person got the point and had been purified by that anger, then he would be just as calm as the ocean. Now materially, who can do that? I mean, when you get upset, when someone's disturbed you or upset you, normally it takes you a while to calm down, doesn't it?
Yeah, depends.
Can you just go from being 100% angry to 0% angry from 1 second to the next? Not normally.
No.
It affects your face and it affects your eyes and
food
and
as well, couple of hours,
and you're shaking and everything like that. But Prabhupada, it was just from 1 second to the next, he was very angry and then just calm as like nothing ever happened, because he was using the anger in Krishna's service. Now that's very interesting. Normally, we're under the control of that angry energy of Maya. We're under that control of the anger. But in this case, the devotee is in control of the anger, is using that energy of anger for a particular purpose. And once the purpose is served, then that energy is withdrawn. So that's amazing. Because normally we get completely under the control of anger or lust or greed or whatever it is. But in this case, the devotee is in control of their emotions, in control of their mind, their emotions, and they're using these things in Krishna's service. Does that make sense? Does anyone want to say anything about that?
No.
Good.
I understand.
Yep. And then it's mentioned all material desires, free from all material desires. So that's another qualification. And we can also misunderstand this to think, I've just got to become like a stone. You know, I'm just going to become like brain dead. You know, I don't think anything, you know, because normally the mind is full of desires, right? So have you ever seen an off switch on the mind?
No.
No.
It'd be good if you found that with your kids, right?
Only when you're in the box. That's it.
Turn them off. Yeah. When you're in the box and there's no more material desires. Yeah. So the mind is always like, it's like an ocean, wave after wave after wave. Do the waves ever stop? No, they're just the waves keep coming in from the ocean. So all these desires keep coming, one desire after another desire, another desire, another desire. So when it says free from desires, does it mean literally like that? No more desires? What it's meaning is you could put the word in there, or it's already in there, no more material desires.
Yeah, you can desire to increase the temple, or you can desire to cook for Krishna. That's a desire, but that's towards service.
Yes. So all we're doing for a liberated person is, instead of having all those material desires, like a bigger house for me and more money for me and a better car and the latest mobile phone for me and more sex for me and more food for me and all these kind of desires, it's like, you know, we want to build a
thing is just me. What's for Krishna?
Yeah, so instead of, and you just got to replace the me with Krishna, 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 and it's the same, and then that's perfection. So, and that's not too hard to do. Of course, if you want to stop desiring, I mean, that is serious. That's a serious impossibility. And there are some people in the impersonalist Mayavadi past, they do try to stop, and Buddhists. There are some serious Buddhists, they try to stop desiring, like literally no desires. That is very difficult. And that's mentioned in the 12th chapter, text 5, that path of trying to stop desires is very difficult. But all we're doing is changing the central point of the desiring. Instead of desiring for my enjoyment, we're desiring for Krishna's enjoyment. And that's not hard. It just got to shift the central point, that's all. Of course, we're very attached normally to being the central point. That is the difficulty. For so many lifetimes, we've tried to be the center of the universe. Of course, we've failed miserably every time. And we should get the idea that we're not the center of the universe. Is anyone that still thinks they're the center of the universe and everything revolves around them?
Yeah. What are you talking about? After reading all that in that many classes we attend, that what sort of question is that?
Yeah. But of course, deep down we may still like it to be like that. But in practicality, we're not. You know, it's just foolishness to think that everything is going to revolve around our enjoyment, and it just doesn't work out like that. You know, like families get so excited. We've got our weekend off. It's a long weekend, and we're going to go out and we're going to go to the beach and we're going to go out on the boat and we're going to have a picnic and everything. And then you know what happens? There's a terrible storm and, you know, all their plans are completely destroyed and everything like that. And it's all a miserable, you know, and then, of course, then there's another, 1 million people from Sydney that had the same idea as you. And then you're all stuck on a traffic jam on Friday afternoon and everyone's life is completely depressed.
It happened to me that I was going to pick up my daughter on the first week of the school holidays. Yeah. And there was an Easter weekend there. Yeah. I mean, it's one trip normally 45, 50 minutes, an hour. It took me 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
I was thinking, should I catch a train? But stuck in there. But
yeah. So from all these experiences, we should realize, I'm not the controller. I'm not the enjoyer. You know, I'm just a tiny, insignificant speck in the corner of the universe. You know, so like that, and become humble and just get pleasure from serving the person that is the enjoyer and serving the person that is the controller and is the proprietor and like that. And that completely changes how our whole outlook on life. So that's what we're trying to get, those realizations, those studies. So, and then it's saying who are self-realized. So that means obviously understanding that I'm not the body, I'm a soul. And more than that, that the soul is a servant of Krishna. Self-disciplined. Self-discipline means, you know what that means? What does it mean to be self-disciplined?
I mean, it's if you make it a vow to, not eating meat, so not eating meat is a discipline.
Yeah, so you have to control the senses, means like the tongue in that case. You have to control your tongue, like what you're going to eat. And you have to control your belly, like how much you're going to eat and put in your belly. And then below the belly is the genitals. So you have to control the genitals too and restrict that to, within marriage for producing children, all these kind of things. So, all the senses like that restrict, and if there's a beautiful half-naked woman walking past on the beach, you might want to pull your head away from that.
Which is not that easy.
You might want to look towards the Bhagavad Gita or the devotee next to you rather than
Bob coming forward and smiling.
So you have to control the eyes, control all these things, the tongue, so forth. So that's what it means to be self-disciplined. Which means to use the senses in Krishna's service. If there's no service for Krishna, then you have to pull your senses back. I don't know if you remember reading that in the Bhagavad Gita. I think we've already gone past that. I think it was in the 2nd chapter, where it compares the yogi to a turtle.
Yeah, I think we've already passed that.
Yeah. Do you remember that example of the turtle? What's the example of a turtle? What's the special feature of a turtle?
Turtle, like, when he want to sit down, he put all the legs and hands and just stuck in there and then sit. He's control to whenever he wants to.
The special feature of the turtle, like Gulshan's sort of indicating, is he can withdraw the senses. He can withdraw his senses, like his head and his arms.
Yes.
So the yogi is like that. It's like a turtle. Okay, there's no service for Krishna in this scenario. Let me pull my senses in. And now there's service for Krishna. Let me extend the senses out, use the senses. So when there's service for Krishna, you use your senses. When there's no service, then you pull it back. Or when there's maybe dangerous situation like that, like there's, half-naked people around or people getting violent or angry or something like that, then you pull away from that. Then you've got to withdraw yourself from that. And otherwise you may get entangled. And there's many cases of even aspiring yoga.
Association of the devotee is very important. If you are associating with a devotee, you will not come across that situation, would you?
No, you can. You can.
If your association
the material world is always going to test us. Even my own spiritual master tells, related to the big demon again, because the material world is a very contaminated place. You have to understand that. It's not always going to be all, perfect paradise all the time, mode of goodness, going, perfectly, harmoniously, peaceful all the time. It can be crazy around you sometimes. And we've all experienced that. And it'll continue to be like that. And believe me, it's going to get more crazy as Kali Yuga progresses. You ain't seen nothing yet. Stick around. It's going to get more crazy. So you have to always be prepared to withdraw yourself from the madness, not get entangled by it. So this one example with my spiritual master, Prabhupada made him the manager of that temple construction, Juhu, right? And this rascal, Mr. Nair, he tried to get the property back.
Oh, yes.
Take it back and keep the money. So, and he particularly targeted my spiritual master because he was the manager. While Prabhupada was absent, he was the head man. So, and he was my spiritual master was keeping it all together. And that's why Prabhupada put him in that position. And he was a brahmachari, means, no associating intimately with women and so forth. And if a brahmachari like that intimately associates with women, what happens to him? Bob, what happens to
him? He's
blooped. He would bloop, fall down.
That's
so
right.
I just love the way you say that, Bob. You just say it so perfectly, bloop. And so he was a very tricky guy. He employed a prostitute and he waited for my spiritual master to walk into an elevator alone. And then he shoved the prostitute in just before the door closed. And then you're trapped. Can you imagine? And then she started groping his private parts, and they're stuck in this moving elevator. And obviously his mind starts to go crazy. Of course, it's a material body. What can you do? And then, but he at that time, his mind went within, and he thought, if I do anything with this woman, then that's going to interfere with my relationship with Prabhupada.
Yeah.
And I don't want that. I love Prabhupada. I'm not going to be able to do my service anymore for Prabhupada.
And your Guru Maharaj must be young back in those days.
He was only just over 20 years old. Can you imagine? You're
controlling in that age.
And you've got a beautiful woman, half-dressed beautiful woman, all alone and touching your body and exposing her body. And, so many possibilities there. But he had to withdraw his senses and control the mind. And he succeeded. And he said the only reason why he succeeded, because he was so attached to Prabhupada. He couldn't bear the thought of spoiling his relationship with Prabhupada. And he said that's the only reason what he helped him to keep it together. Otherwise, he would have lost it. So that's so important, that we need to develop our positive relationship with God and with the devotees and with our spiritual practice, and be enjoying that and not want to risk losing that. And that will help us in difficult times. I mean, we might not go through exactly what he went through, but definitely we'll go through difficult times when we're exposed to, material enjoyment in different ways. And it can be difficult. So, but we have to learn this discipline, to control. And the only way we're going to be able to control the mind is if we develop our spiritual intelligence, strong spiritual intelligence. And this comes through hearing, like we're doing. We're hearing about Krishna, hearing from Krishna, hearing about Krishna. This helps us to become spiritually strong. So you have to be very spiritually strong to be able to resist these temptations from Maya. Because don't think that Maya is not going to have a go at you guys. That all of us, Maya is going to test us right till the final, what do they call it? What do you call it when you have like a race?
The final journey to the last. Your Guru Maharaj wrote a book that the final exam, life's final exam.
But
that's still that.
That's true. Yep, final exam. But like when you're having a race, they have that ribbon across.
Finish line.
The finish line. Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, the finish line is that means pretty much.
Maya's going to test us right to the finish line. I'll tell you one story. It's a really cool story. There was a Muslim king at the time the Muslims had taken over India, named Akbar.
Oh, yeah.
And
he was a special man. He was not ordinary man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely not. And he was a good soul. And he employed Hindu ministers.
Yes.
So I'm trying to remember the name of the minister.
Toramal or Birbal?
Birbal. Yeah, it was Birbal.
Yes.
So he's a Hindu. Now the next question is, why he's a Muslim? Why didn't he have Muslim ministers?
Because he's very brilliant. The Birbal, very intelligent.
That's there. The Hindu ones are very brilliant, but also the Muslim ones, you can't trust them.
Yeah.
You can't trust, because the Muslim, as soon as you turn your back, he'll stab you in the back.
That is in the history, yes. They killed their own father to get the kingdom.
No Muslim king would ever employ a Muslim servant, because they know they're low class.
Loyalty.
They're low class, but they know the Hindus are very civilized. They're honest and truthful. They're not materialistic. They're not greedy. Like that, so they'd all have, and they're very intelligent, so they have Hindu ministers. And so he had one called Birbal, and he asked his Hindu minister one time, how long does lust stay with us for? When does lust go away? And Birbal said, right until death. Right until death. And the king said, no, that's not possible. How could you be an old man and all diseased and dying and you're still lusty for a woman? That's not possible. And he said, okay, I'll give you a demonstration. You just wait. I'll call you, and I'll demonstrate that's a fact. So some days later, he said, come with me and bring your beautiful daughter. The King Akbar had a beautiful daughter. So he said, come with me, bring your beautiful daughter, and we're going to go to the house of a dying man. And when we enter the door, when we enter the room of the dying man, I want you to look at his face. You look at his face when you enter the room of the dying man. So the king walked in the room of the dying man. He's flat on his back in his bed. He's old. He's diseased. He's just about dead. And then his daughter was beside him. Beautiful woman, beautiful daughter was beside him. And sure enough, that old, diseased, dying man never looked at the king. He's the king. He's like the top man in the kingdom, the prime minister, the king. So he never looked at the king. He just looked at the daughter. He was just fixed on the daughter. And the king could tell straight away, he's still lusty. He's still lusty. And then he turned to Birbal and said, you're onto it, mate. I believe you now. I didn't believe you before, but I believe you now. That lust doesn't go away, So that's what I'm saying, that Maya is not going to leave us alone.
It's a true story. The Indian, the oldest man become a father. Do you know that? How old was it?
No, don't know.
92.
92, okay.
Yes, and he became a father, and then the wife was 40. And because we had his son's interview, and he said, I can't remember any recall, like when he was 2 and the father died, but he says yes. And then his mom says that, he was 92 and I was 40. So, oldest man in Australia to become a father. So, Bob, you still get a chance.
So Maya is always going to try to attract the senses. So don't think, you can just, you can take it easy. And Maya's not going to give you a hard time. No, that's not the case. But the best thing is we always positively engaged in serving Krishna, and we get as we say, a higher taste. It's very important. We want to get the higher taste that we enjoy serving Krishna. We enjoy Krishna's prasadam. We enjoy kirtan, all these things. So our tongue, our eyes, everything is satisfied. And our heart is satisfied in Krishna's service. And that's the only secure position. And like with my spiritual master, he had more attachment to Prabhupada than he did to the woman. But if he didn't have that, if the attachment to the woman is more, then obviously you're going to go that way. So it's very important. We want to develop our relationship with Krishna, with the devotees, with chanting, with serving and like that, and really enjoy it, be satisfied with that, be peaceful with that. And that will be our real friend, and protect us from sense gratification and Maya and so forth. So that's really, helping us self-discipline. And then it's saying constantly endeavoring for perfection. So that's what I'm saying also, we need to keep it up. Don't slow down. We need to not that you endeavor when you start the process, when you first meet the Hare Krishnas, and then you try hard for 5 years, and now you think, well, I'm a senior devotee now. I could think, I'm a senior devotee now. I'm 30 years. I've been a Hare Krishna for 30 years, since I was 20, and I'm nearly 50 now. So I'm a senior devotee now. I've been practicing 30 years. Now I'm going to take it easy. Now I'm just going to sit back and cruise. And, I don't need to get up so early anymore. And I don't need to chant so much anymore. Maybe I'll just chant 10 rounds a day and, like that. And if I, go to and eat out at different restaurants every now and again, doesn't matter if I eat a bit of this and that. And no, as soon as you slacken up, Maya's going to hammer you. Maya's going to immediately hammer you. So like it's saying here, constantly endeavor for perfection. So until the body drops down for the last time and doesn't get up, we need to keep endeavoring. Don't stop the enthusiastic, service. Keep putting the effort in. Of course, as the body gets older, you might not be able to endeavor so much physically. But when it's saying endeavor, it doesn't just mean running around with your body. I mean, like when you're young, you might be able to run around and, do so many endeavors. But when you're older, what could you possibly do that changes? I mean, you can't do so much physically, but how could you be endeavoring like when your body's older and you can't do so much physical activity? How could you still be endeavoring? What's some examples?
Possibly teach, volunteering.
Yeah, teaching. Yeah, just look at Prabhupada. I mean, he was so active, but not like running around. I mean, he went for one walk a day, maybe for an hour, and that was some physical exertion, and that was for his fitness, his exercise, his morning walk. But apart from that, he didn't move around very much. But he was very active with his speaking. He was constantly speaking and constantly writing, constantly, as we know, so many books. I mean, he was so active in writing books and speaking. So he didn't like slow down in his spiritual endeavors as he got older. He speeded up. But it changed from being more on the physical platform to more on the intellectual and speaking, through speaking and intellectual activities like that. So some adjustments can be made, but we shouldn't sort of retire from Krishna consciousness. That's a disaster. Don't think, I've done so much chanting for so many years and I've had so much prasadam, I've done so much service. Now I'm going to take it easy and not do much service anymore. That's not going to help us towards liberation. Does that make sense?
Of course.
It does.
And when you get older, actually, the body gets older is actually, I mean, materially speaking, getting older is a bummer because your senses don't work so well anymore, isn't it? Your eyes don't.
My mom said that she's 86. She said that, I'm old like an old car, like, getting in the morning hard to start.
Yeah.
And getting in the bed to go into the toilet, everything is so hard. It's not,
So,
I'm just trying to see, I'm going to be getting there. Can you imagine the 86 and same as a queen, 92 or something.
Yeah. So, however, materially, it's all downhill, right? We all know that.
Definitely.
But spiritually,
it's
the
uphill.
older the body gets, the better it gets spiritually, because the older it gets, the senses get weaker. So they don't, the amount of disturbance reduces.
Your desire getting less and less.
It doesn't go away, but it does reduce because the genitals aren't so powerful anymore. The stomach's not so powerful. The tongue, the eyes, the ears, the digestion, the arms, the legs. So the senses all become weaker. So the agitation and that reduces, which is good for spiritual life. And then also you have more experience, more years of experience. You've heard Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and you've done chanting for 10 years, then 20 years, then 30 years, then 40 years. And so your experience is building up and your realization and your faith is getting stronger, and your devotion, your feelings are getting more purified. So as we get older in Krishna consciousness, it's actually getting better and better and better spiritually, which is the opposite to materialistic life, is all downhill. So that's something actually we can look forward to as we get older. As long as you continue the process, it's going to get better and better. But the thing is not to give up. Don't stop it. Don't slow down. Just keep it going, and it will improve. Things will get easier. Your senses are going to be hassling you less, and then you're going to develop more knowledge, more faith, and like that, and you're going to get more realization, more taste from what you're doing in devotional service. So that's something exciting. And it's saying for someone that doing all these things, they are assured liberation of the Supreme in the very near future. So it's not going to be long if we are doing these things. It's not going to be long, and we're definitely out of here, and we're not coming back when the body dies. Like Prabhupada said, he was very convinced, and he said to everyone in the audience many times, you chant 16 rounds of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra every day. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Follow the 4 regulated principles, which are no meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, and try your best to help others become Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada said, and I guarantee, if you do that, I guarantee you will go back home, back to Godhead at the end of this lifetime. That's so cool, isn't it? That should inspire our faith. I've just got to hang in. I've got to hang in and follow those things that Prabhupada said to the end of this life. And Prabhupada's saying, I guarantee you'll go back home, back to Godhead. And then someone may ask, well, what kind of guarantee is that anyway? It's just coming from a person. It's not coming from God. It's coming from just a servant of God, a devotee, a spiritual master, guru. But is that a big deal when a guru gives a guarantee? What do you think? Is a guarantee coming from a devotee?
He's not a guru. He's connect with the disciple succession from Krishna.
Well, that's what a guru is. A guru must be connected. If he's not connected, he's not a guru.
He's not an ordinary person.
Yeah. So is a guarantee coming from a guru, is it reliable?
Yes.
Yes.
He's a disciple of Krishna, and then coming through the main source.
It's said that the promise that a devotee gives is better than a promise that Krishna gives and God gives. You know why that is? That sounds pretty crazy, doesn't it?
Krishna lives in the devotees.
Did you know that sometimes Krishna breaks his word, breaks his promise? But
he never breaks the devotee's promise.
The devotee is never broken, and I'll explain how that works.
That was the Bhishma Pitama.
Yeah. In the Bhagavad Gita itself, Krishna broke in the battlefield of Kurukshetra, that Krishna himself broke his promise, because he promised before the battle began that he would not fight. He promised, I'll go there, but I won't take up any weapon. I won't take up a weapon, and I won't fight. So, but it happened that he broke his promise, and he did fight to protect his devotee against, when Bhishma was looking like Bhishma was going to kill Arjuna, to protect Arjuna's life. Then Krishna picked up the chariot wheel and used it as a weapon to defend Arjuna. And
that's a minute the minute he took that wheel, and then
Krishna, see, God puts his own devotee as more important than himself. It's more important than himself. So for himself, of course, his word is very important. You don't want to break your word. But that his devotee's life is more important than his own word of honor. And word of honor is a big thing. I mean, in Vedic culture, if someone said something, they don't break their word. So that was a very extraordinary situation where his devotee was going to be killed. So to protect his devotee, he sacrificed his word of honor. It's not like us now in Kali Yuga, where we say one thing and 5 minutes later we've already broken what we said. We don't care about what we say, keeping it. But back, if you go back even 100 years ago, I mean, some of you might know, I don't know, from your grandparents or whatever, if they say something.
Oh, they do.
No, do it. It doesn't matter.
It's very famous for that. Like, pran jaye par vachan na jaye. Vachan means, like, if you say something, you do even if you die, but you hold your promise.
Yeah.
Well.
So if you go back even within the last 100 years or even further back, it was very strong. Truthfulness is very important. Whatever words come out of your mouth, that has to come true. You can't go back on that. Even if it's bad for you, even if it creates something bad for you, who cares? I've given my word, that's it. And but okay, a devotee says something, then how is that never going to be broken? Because it said that Krishna personally will uphold whatever his devotee says. See, no one is upholding what Krishna says, right? But Krishna is upholding what the devotee says. So if the devotee says that if you chant 16 rounds and follow the 4 principles, you'll go back home, back to God at the end of this life, then Krishna will make that happen. Krishna will make, God himself will make sure that happens. And he says that in the 9th chapter text, it's about 20, when is that? 9th chapter text around 26 or something, that he says, declare it boldly, Arjuna, my devotee will never perish. Declare it boldly, my devotee will never. I'm not exactly sure whether it's 26. And now it's getting dark. I have to turn the light on. Okay, let's see. Let's have a look. It starts off from 31. Sorry, 31. 9th chapter, text 31. 9th chapter, text 31. Okay, who's got that one? Has anyone got it there? You can have a read.
He quickly become righteous and attain lasting peace, O son of Kunti. Declares boldly that my devotee never perishes.
Okay. So Krishna here is telling Arjuna, you declare, means you speak, you tell that Krishna's devotee will never perish. Now the question is, why doesn't Krishna tell? Why doesn't Krishna declare that my devotee will never perish? He's telling his devotee to tell it, because Krishna knows that sometimes he breaks his word, but that his devotee's word is never broken. So do you understand that? Krishna's asking his devotee to tell everyone. His devotee to tell everyone that my devotee will never perish, means fall down. Not that because Krishna himself could say my devotee will not fall down, but he's getting Arjuna to say that. And he's doing that because sometimes he breaks his word, but his devotee's word is never broken. So that's a point there that's illustrated there, why Krishna is asking Arjuna to say, not that he's saying, but that he wants his devotee to say it. Because what the devotee says is more in concrete. Because he loves his devotees so much. This is just showing the love between Krishna and his devotees. If Krishna's devotee says something, Krishna loves his devotees so much, he will carry that out through hell or high water. But somehow or other, that will happen. Because that's just showing how much love Krishna has for his devotees, that he will make it happen. He loves his devotees so much. So a very deep relationship between Krishna and his devotees.
And then the relationship will only knows the Krishna. The average person don't know what their relationship, like what's your relationship with Krishna, what's Bob's relationship with Krishna. Only Krishna knows. Is that correct?
Yeah. And then, of course, from this, you might doubt this and say, well, but we know that devotees do bloop, isn't it, Bob? We know that devotees bloop. They do fall down. But then if you go deeper into that scenario, actually they're not really falling down. It's just temporary. They've just, could say, temporarily, like, you know, you're a young kid and you're learning to ride a bike, and then you fall off the bike, and then what do you do after you fall off, Bob?
Get up and jump on again.
You get straight back on again. You know, so you're not going to stay on the ground, you know. And then especially if your parents are standing nearby,
then you stay on the ground.
No, well, they're going to pick you up.
Yeah.
If you don't get up, they're going to pick you up and plonk you back on the bike. You know, so that's the thing. That's the special thing with a devotee. See, if a non-devotee has problems, like a Mayavadi and personalist, if they fall down, they stay down because there's no one to pick them up. But if a devotee has a slip, and if they will get up, they will try to get up. If they can't get up by themselves, Krishna will help them. Krishna's watching them all the time. Krishna's going to make, like it says there, declare my devotee will never perish, because Krishna personally is going to help his devotee. So even if a devotee does have a slip due to illicit sex or bad association, or he stops chanting and whatever like that, something happens, but Krishna will arrange that he gets back on. Now, whether he's going to get back on the path in this life or in the next, well, that's going to change. It depends. But sooner or later, and not much later, but it's definitely sooner than later, that devotee is going to be back on track again, and he's going to keep going forwards. But the thing is, you might stop your bhakti, your devotional service, for some time, but you're never going to go backwards. Did you know that? You can never lose what you've done. Whatever devotional activities you've done, that's never going to get lost. And that's said in chapter 2, text 40 or 41. That's a very important verse. It's either 40 or 41 of the second chapter, that it's saying on this path there's no loss or diminution, and a little advancement protects one from the most dangerous kind of fear, which is, what's the most dangerous fear? Is after this body dies, going back down into the animal species and the lower species like plants and birds and fish and so forth, because that can happen. I know there was one famous politician in India and that was back in Gandhi's days. His name was Nehru. He was a big man.
Yeah, Jawaharlal Nehru.
One astrologer looked at his chart, his astrological chart after he died, and the astrologer said he took birth as a dog in Scandinavia. Scandinavia means very cold, not a very good place for a dog. And it doesn't matter where you are, you know, even Australia is not a good, being in a dog's body is not good. You know, we've got a dog now. I've seen he just eats all garbage off the ground. You know, he'll even eat the stool of other animals and everything like that. So being in a dog's body is very horrible. And you know, very low consciousness and always just barking and everything, no higher consciousness. You know, so that's very fearful, to go from this human life, fall back down to the lower species. But Krishna guarantees that if
you mentioned that last week, that the Krishna has got a dog as well.
Yeah, but that's in the spiritual world. So a dog in the spiritual world is fully Krishna conscious. Even a blade of grass in the spiritual world is fully Krishna conscious. There's no difference between a blade of grass and a gopi and their consciousness in the spiritual world. They're all Krishna conscious, but the material is different. You know, non-humans are very ignorant, very passionate. So the human species has an opportunity, more mode of goodness means more consciousness, more knowledge. like that. So you don't want to go from a human body where you have more knowledge to being in an animal or a bird or plant body and have no knowledge. That's terrible. That's a great loss. And then from being in the body of a worm or a tree or something, you have to take birth millions of times to get back to a human body where you can again start your Krishna consciousness again. So that's a disaster. But it's said that any Krishna consciousness we do protects us from losing this human form of life. So even if you, for example, blow it and mess up and hang out with prostitutes or whatever, I'm not recommending you do that, but even if that did happen, it would stop your Krishna consciousness, definitely. You wouldn't progress probably much at that point, and you'd put a stop on your Krishna consciousness, but you wouldn't lose what you'd already done. And then at a certain point, Krishna will help you to continue where you left off, either earlier in this life or in your last life or whatever like that. But better we don't stop it, because, I mean, why create more suffering and why slow down going back to Godhead? Better we don't fall down, but it may happen. I mean, like I said, Maya is very powerful and we're quite weak. And of course, our strength lies in taking shelter of Krishna. As long as we stick closely to our Guru's instructions and to serving Krishna, we're protected. But if for some reason we stray away from that and become a bit slack or a bit lazy, then we can slip. But still, we're going to keep what we've already done, and then sooner or later Krishna will help us, because Krishna's always going to remember that. I remember Gulshan and Bob, they did some nice service in the Bhakti tree and at the farm, and they've served so much prasadam and they've chanted so nicely and they've helped the Prabhupada's movement, and so you've got so much credit there, and Krishna will definitely help you to get back on the bicycle again and continue on. But yeah, still, we should still be fully determined that we're not going to fall off the bike. You try to stay on the bike and like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sure does.
So we should have a lot of faith and hope, that we should have a strong hope that we can go back to Godhead, because even though we're very insignificant, very weak or whatever like that, have so many problems, but Krishna is so merciful, so kind. And that reminds me, actually, because it's Lord Ram's birthday today, his appearance day, there's one verse from the Ramayana which says, I wonder if I can remember the Sanskrit. I don't remember right now, but it's basically saying that if someone surrenders unto sakrad eva prapano yas tavasmani to yachate abhayam savada tasmai dadamyatad vratam mama, that it says that if someone surrenders to me only once, saying that from this day forward I am yours. I'll say that again. If someone surrenders to me only once, saying that I am yours, from that day I make him fearless and give him my protection. That is my vow. That's Lord Ram saying, from that day I give him protection and make him fearless. That is my vow. If they just surrender once and say, I am yours. I am your servant, my Lord. You are my master from this day. I have been trying to enjoy without you for so many lifetimes, sense gratification, and I've suffered so much. But today I surrender to you. I am yours from now on. I'm your servant. You are my master. So if someone does like that just once, then Krishna or Ram gives them special protection and will help them. And where that comes up in the Ramayana, it was very interesting. Ravana, who very evil demon, had one very pious brother named Vibhishan.
Yeah.
Vibhishana. So he was also a Rakshasa, born in a Rakshasa family, means man-eaters, cannibals. He was born in a family of cannibals, man-eaters. But he was very good at heart, even though his brother was so evil and stole Sita away. So
he was the devotee of Ram.
he was a devotee of Ram.
He said to his brother, "What have you done?"
Yeah, he was constantly trying to discourage Ravana from taking Sita and fighting Ram and all that, but his brother didn't listen. So anyway, he deserted. He was a deserter. So he left his brother's side and went over to the side of Ram. Now, in the wartime, right, that's normally not a very good thing, right, if you desert your side and go over to the enemy's side. But he went over to the enemy's side, to Ram's side. But Ram's soldiers, the monkey soldiers, didn't trust Vibhishana. They were very concerned. He's come over from the man-eaters, he's Ravana's brother. We don't trust this guy at all. He might just be trying to trick us, and he's going to do something, against us. So they were very suspicious of him, and they didn't like him at all. They weren't very friendly with him. And then Lord Ram spoke that verse to his monkey soldiers in defense of Vibhishana. So much love, that he's saying that Vibhishana had surrendered to him. And then Lord was giving him protection, and from that time. So basically, don't worry, he's a devotee.
And I think
but that's the relation.
Whole Lanka was burnt except his house. The Hanuman, he burnt everything except his house. Yes.
Yeah, it's very. Yeah, it's very. I was just looking at my watch. If I got time, I just want to tell another story.
I need to go to Bhakti Tree early today. Okay.
Oh, you have to go right now?
No. Another 5-10 minutes.
Oh yeah, I'll just go a few minutes.
Yeah.
And because this is a good day to tell the story, because it's another story that I from the Ramayana, and I just found it out recently. It's a really cool story. I never heard it before. And how does the story start? It's just a short story. There was Tulsi plant, the holy Tulsi plant, growing in Lanka in one particular place, and then there was a question: why did Ravana allow the Tulsi to be in Lanka, which is known to be the devotee of Vishnu? That's always used in Vishnu worship. So why was Tulsi allowed to be growing there? And that this comes from one time, because Ravana would go and steal different places all over the universe. He was like a universal terrorist, and he would constantly be stealing and plundering from different places. So he went to another place called Harivarsha, where Prahlad Maharaj and his devotees worship Nrsingadev, the half-man, half-lion form of the Lord, Nrsingadev. And they stole a whole heap of stuff from that place, and they brought it back to Lanka. And after they did that, they noticed that so many bad omens started happening in Lanka. So many terrible things started happening. And Ravana approached his guru, his spiritual master, who was Shukracharya, who's the guru of the demons. And he asked his guru, why is so many bad things starting to happen in Lanka? And he said, Shukracharya said, because when you went to Harivarsha, amongst all that stuff you stole a Nrsingadev deity. You stole a deity of Nrsingadev, a little deity. And that deity was getting worshipped very nicely there they offer 16 items to worship Nrsingadev. and you've taken him away from that. Now he's not getting worshipped, and he's angry. Now, because Nrsingadev's angry that his worship stopped, now you're going through so many problems. So Ravana said, well, what should I do? Should I take him back? Should I give him back? And he said, no, you can't give him back. The best thing you can do is start up the worship again. And you're going to have to get a pious person to worship him. And well, where are you going to find a pious person in Lanka? They're all like man-eaters. And then Shukracharya said, your brother, Vibhishana, he's a pious person. You get him to worship Nrsingadev. And Ravana built a temple for Nrsingadev on Lanka. He built a temple for Nrsingadev on Lanka, and he organized planting tulsi because he knows that you need tulsi to worship Nrsingadev. So it's amazing how Krishna arranged that he was, even though he's a demon, he got forced to build a temple for the Lord and plant tulsi tree and worship there, and he supported that. And it said before Ram went to go to Lanka to get back Sita, he went to one temple in a place called Ahovalam in South India, and he prayed to Nrsingadev there. He went to pray to Nrsingadev there before he went to get back Sita. And it's explained by the great acharyas that the reason why he did that, because Ram knew that Nrsingadev is the presiding deity of Lanka. He's like the master of Lanka because he was already there. Nrsingadev was already there, so he's like the boss of Lanka. So Ram is going to Nrsingadev because he's the boss. Please make us successful. Allow us to go and destroy the demons there and everything like that. And it's even said that when Hanuman went to Lanka to look for Sita, before he burnt Lanka, Hanuman went to that Nrsingadev temple. He went to that Nrsingadev temple and asked permission of Nrsingadev. Dear Nrsingadev, is it okay if I burn the city down? and he got permission from Nrsingadev, and then he burnt it down. And that's the end of the story. Nice story, huh?
Yeah.
That's far out. I never heard about that before. That was far out. That Nrsingadev was being worshipped in Lanka by Vibhishan, and there was Tulsi there, and there being worshipped, and everything serving Nrsingadev, and then Ram and Hanuman prayed to Nrsingadev, and such a nice story. Yeah, so wonderful. So this is the best way to engage our mind. And always thinking about and remembering these different pastimes of the Lord, and that will purify our mind and take it away from all lusty desires and greedy, angry things and so much rubbish that the mind dwells on, and gossiping and all these kind of useless things. So yeah, unfortunately time's up, so we haven't read the purport, so next week we'll read the purport.
Bye-bye, everyone. Stay safe.
I was thinking that I'll catch in a bus, but I put in the form that someone will pick me up in the afternoon. I'm from Utah, so I don't want to disturb that person to drop me first and take me after that. So is that okay that they can...